eyes off of her almost immediately. I'm sorry to the listening audience. This is like fingernails on a chalkboard.
Oh my God!
He's not even stirring, like he's heard this before.
No, he's not even remotely motivated to stand up and hug her or celebrate with her.
Or tell her to shut up.
And not at all. So wait, what was I Oh, I think something is happening with them. This is my armchair analysis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've heard of trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm.
I think they convinced themselves that they were, put upon, they were attacked, whatever, that they were in the midst of a trauma when they were first getting together or after they got married because the evil, racist royal family, they couldn't be first. They were behaving like spoiled brats. They didn't like the size of their castle. They manifested it all into, we're getting bullied. Mm-hmm. We're not getting the things we want. They don't appreciate us. This alleged bullshit story about how he ran around saying she's going to kill herself.
If we were to curate a gallery defining the current cultural zeitgeist, pushing aside the visceral imagery of geopolitical conflict or the triumphs of human spirit, there is one singular image that demands to be crowned the photo of the year. It is not a portrait of heroism, nor is it a snapshot of tragedy in the traditional sense.
First of all, I would like to nominate this photo for photo of the year. Forget war-torn Ukraine. This is the photo of the year. And why, I think, is because
we got to zoom in on Harry's eyes, please.
The whole face is incredible. He's like slack-jawed. He's like googly. He's like, I'm like 8 drinks in. This is not the first time.
It is a terrifyingly high-definition zoom into the eyes of Prince Harry, a visual document that captures the precise moment a soul realizes it has wandered too far from home to ever return. When you look closely at his face in these recent captures, the facade of the happy warrior or the liberated prince evaporates entirely. The expression is slacked, googly, almost reminiscent of a man who is 8 drinks deep at a party he never wanted to attend, staring through the guests rather than at them. It is a look of profound chemical dissociation. This is not an isolated incident, a mere bad angle caught by an unforgiving shutter speed. This is a pattern, a recurring motif in the visual diary of the Sussexes that suggests something has fundamentally snapped within the gilded walls of Montecito. We are witnessing the erosion of a man in real time. You can trace the decline in the vacant stare, the hollow curvature of his grin, and the palpable, freezing distance between two people who were once bound together by a narrative of defiance against the world. They now stand under the same roof looking like strangers who have forgotten the language they once used to communicate. The illusion is not just cracking, it is shattering into dust, and the world is finally being granted a clear view through the glossy, filtered facade that has shielded them for so years. There is a chilling moment that many observers believe marks the beginning of the end for the Hollywood reign of Harry and Meghan, a moment that strips away the PR spin and leaves only the raw, uncomfortable reality of their dynamic. It isn't about saving face for the cameras anymore. It's about the sheer inability to hide the disdain. Observers and body language experts have noted that Harry's comportment around Hollywood luminaries, and specifically his interactions with figures like Kris Jenner, reveals a man who is deeply uncomfortable, perhaps even contemptuous of the circles he now inhabits. Behind closed doors, one has to wonder who Meghan is truly dealing with. This is a middle-aged man, a prince of the blood, a figure raised in the palaces of Europe, who has spent his life surrounded by genuine high power, not just reality TV fame. There is a sleazy, smarmy immaturity creeping into his public persona, a regression that is painful to watch. This is the man she goes home with every night. The dynamic captured in recent video clips serves as the perfect yin to the yang of their previous public failures. It is the emotional equivalent of losing the World Series in the bottom of the 9th inning. You can see Harry sitting there, his body language screaming a silent, desperate question. Oh my God, what the hell did I marry? How did I end up here? Why is this happening to me? The contempt is written in the curvature of his spine, in the way he slumps while she attempts to manufacture excitement for the room. In one particular instance, as Meghan tries to rally the troops, getting her friends to cheer and perform for the lens, Harry sits there like a man who has lost the will to live. He looks like he needs a drink, not a celebration. He looks entirely alone. And that is the crux of the tragedy, the isolation. In moments that should be celebratory, like a major sports win or a casual Sunday gathering, a man usually has his tribe. You expect the beer, the pizza, the junk food, the camaraderie of male friendship that acts as a buffer against the world. It is one of the few monocultural bonding events left in society. Yet, Harry is solitary, one arm slung grimly over his head, sinking into furniture that looks less like a royal throne and more like the grim, lazy-boy adjacent seating of a man who has given up. When Meghan comes hopping over, manic, and performed, you can tell he genuinely doesn't know what is going on. He doesn't realize he is a prop in a social media video. He doesn't realize he is on set. He thinks he is in his living room, but in the Sussex household, there is no difference between the living room and the soundstage. For years, the story of the Sussexes has been packaged and sold to us as a modern fairy tale of royalty versus ancient cruelty. They were the brave, star-crossed lovers who broke free from the cold, iron grip of the British monarchy to find their voice and their freedom. But the truth, as it always does, is rising to the surface, revealing that this freedom came with a price tag neither of them seems willing to admit, let alone pay. What we are witnessing now in these awkward public appearances, in the forced smiles that don't reach the eyes and the cold glances exchanged when they think no one is looking, is not rebellion anymore. It is regret. Prince Harry, once the wild-hearted soldier who wore his pain and his passion with pride, now simply looks tired. This is not the exhaustion of a man overworked by charitable endeavors or the weight of duty. This is the spiritual weariness of a man who realizes he is trapped in a performance he helped write, a play where he has forgotten his lines and despises his character. Meghan, ever the consummate strategist, continues to play to the camera with a desperate energy, her charm forced and brittle, while he looks on detached, as if he is watching a documentary of someone else's life unfolding on a screen. It is no longer just about a marriage under strain. It is about image management gone horribly wrong. When every intimate moment becomes a branding opportunity, authenticity is the first casualty. The disconnect is so severe that it often seems Harry is unaware of the plot Meghan is weaving in real time. In candid moments, his initial reaction to her proximity is often defensive, a physical recoil, an arm raised as if to say, "Don't come into my space." In that split second, before the media training kicks in, he speaks for everyone who has grown weary of the theatrics. Then, the realization hits him. There is a tableau being formed, a scene being set, and he realizes he must play ball. But the fear is there. It is a subtle, lurking anxiety, a corollary to the way people walk on eggshells around volatile personalities. When you watch them together, specifically in moments where she is screeching with excitement or demanding attention, his eyes drift off her almost immediately. He doesn't stir. He isn't motivated to stand up, to hug her, to celebrate with her, or even to tell her to quiet down. He is simply present in body, absent in spirit. It is the reaction of a man who has heard this script 1,000 times before and no longer finds the plot twists compelling. This brings us to the armchair analysis that is becoming increasingly difficult to refute: the concept of trauma bonding. It is a psychological glue formed not from genuine, sustainable love, but from shared chaos, from a mutual sense of being under siege. It seems highly probable that Harry and Meghan convinced themselves they were the victims of a grand conspiracy, that they were in the midst of a profound trauma when they first united. They spun a narrative that the evil, racist royal family was out to destroy them, when in reality, they were often behaving like petulant children who were dissatisfied with the size of their castle or the hierarchy of the institution. They manifested their own bullying. They convinced themselves that they were not appreciated, that their demands were righteous, and this shared grievance became the bedrock of their union. The Megxit saga was spun up into a traumatic escape, a flight for survival, masking the reality that they were the ones inflicting humiliation on the Queen and the institution. But here's the problem with trauma bonding. It requires constant trauma to sustain the bond. The adrenaline of the escape, the us against the world mentality, is a powerful drug. But now, the trauma has quieted down. The initial surge of hormones and cortisol has faded. The chase is over. And now, two real, flawed people are stuck looking at each other in the quiet of a California mansion, without the distraction of a royal battle to fight. The bloom is clearly off the rose. Now that they are looking at each other without the ornaments of royal scandal to make life exciting, they seem deeply displeased with what they see. When you build a relationship on mutual resentment and outrage, on the idea that you are partners in a war, what happens when the war ends? What happens when there is no one left to blame? The noise has quieted, the media storm has thinned to a repetitive drizzle, and for the first time, Harry and Meghan are being forced to face each other without the backdrop of public sympathy to keep them united. The chemistry that once fueled their rebellion seems to have curdled into something colder, more calculating. The looks they exchange, awkward, unguarded, sharp, tell us everything we need to know. But the internal crumbling of their dynamic is only half the story.